That's right, I got an intro. Special thanks to Ian in England, or the UK anyway, for giving that to me. That was really, really cool of you. I feel so cool. I'm up there! I've got an intro! Yeah! He made the music and the entire thing, so it's all him. It's all him. Today we're going to be discussing a major part of conventions, and that is the empty room. That doesn't sound like anything to you. You're like, an empty room? Who cares? The reality is, an empty room is incredibly important to how you set up your convention. So here we go, and let's go into the empty room. I want you to imagine a giant empty room, and everything that is filled with it is just flat and straight. This is an empty room. This is the Oregon Convention Center, where I help out at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. This is what you're going to see when you start. And you can't just be like, well, I guess I could put a wheelbarrow in here. I guess I could put, a little kiddie pool in here, because it will be very obvious that you don't know what you're doing. You have to look at this empty room. You have to go see this empty room. I need to fill it. I need to make this empty room into the coolest thing I could possibly imagine. And you'll look at the room and you'll just be like, okay, I've got stuff and I need this stuff to go in there. And what am I going to do with this stuff? Where am I going to place it? Oh. And, you have to keep all this stuff in storage. You have to keep all this stuff ready. But that's the thing. It's entirely your imagination on what you fill with it. So your planning isn't, what can I do, or what's all the cool things I can do. It's, how can I fill this room? How is this room supposed to be filled? And how do I set everything up so that the room is ready? Things can be provided for you. You can get chairs, you can get tables, you can get places for vendors, and the vendors will thank you, by the way. And this is entirely a possibility for you. But the room itself needs to be open and ready. You need to have an area fitted out into your mind. Not just into your mind, but given to the people, so that your imagination is placed as kind of a permanent thing. Not a permanent, but as the way everybody is going to plan things out. And they are going to take everything, and they're going to design every little bit that you give. So if you say, I need tables here, and I need dividers here, and I need this, and I need this, they will understand that, and they will set everything up for you. All of that will cost money, but you will be able to do things with it. And that means that you have an empty room that suddenly starts to fill up. And you know how to do everything because you've planned it out. You've prepared for this empty room to be filled. Empty rooms are not always what people imagine them to be. Doo-doo. 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 Oh, empty rooms are exactly what you imagine them to be. Doo-doo. They're just giant rooms that you fill to the best of your abilities, and it's within your imagination that they become great. This is an ending shot, so that trash won't be there when you first show up. But look, this is exactly what it is. It's just a giant, empty room waiting for you to fill it. Or a giant open space is actually well known in those who study history. Just giant open spaces would be a place for a moot or for a great meeting that you would find throughout history. We don't actually know how far it goes back because it goes beyond our written histories. But just imagine a giant field open up for everybody to see. And in this room, or in this area, there's not a room. They go, okay, we're going to have a meeting. And in the center, we're going to have all of the great chiefs here, and they will meet and they will decide what we will do for the rest of the show, or for the rest of the thing that we're doing. And this is a great thing in our minds because we
Well, I'm
can...
doing 1080p right now, and I can do 4K.
Yes, 4K. It can do 4K, but I wouldn't recommend it. And they would create, places for people to live, places for people to eat, and they will all meet. And the really cool part about it is they would all leave shortly after that. So in the Comanche Empire, they would have a two-mile area that everybody would gather in, and they'd put all their teepees, they'd put all their stuff there, and for that day, they would have everything, or for that month, they would have everything they needed provided right there. They had all the food, they had everything prepared, and they would discuss what they were going to do for the rest of the year. And then as soon as it was done, they packed everything up and they left. The empty room becomes an important factor for us to think about when you look at it not only as a convention center thing, but as a conclusion to what history has shown us. The convention center is merely a providence for what you need to do it again, or to do it in a more modern text. E3 or any of those other conventions are merely a continuation of that show, of that idea happening before you. A great way to think about the empty room is to think of the floor plan that you have in front of you. However much stuff you have is what fills that room. So you don't try to fill up an entire convention floor. You just try to fill up enough of a room to fill, what you've got. For example, here's a bunch of my consoles. Oh, hey. Forgot I had that. And I can fill up, a small-sized room. And it wouldn't be too hard for me to do that. In fact, I have done it. I've done a 4-hour convention. And in that 4-hour convention, the biggest thing I had to discover was, well, I actually need stuff for TVs. I didn't have enough TVs. That was the major problem there. And for me, that tells me exactly how much of a convention I can do and exactly what I need help with. So when you look at the floor plan, you don't think, oh, this is the room. I'm going to fill it with everything I can handle. Instead, fill it with what you have. Fill it with what you can. And that way you can know what you're doing and why. Of course, this means that once you fill up that room and you've made enough money and you've got some extra, that means you take it and you apply it to the rest of the room. So, the next show, you might have an expanded area for, the ball pit that you made enough money to buy from the convention, which means, you have all of these opportunities in front of you that you can use, and it really provides a way of thinking. My floor plan is what I've got, so I can put what I've got onto the floor plan and maybe fill in some vendor space over here. The picture from the slide is actually from the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. That is the one room area for all of the easy playable stuff. So, and yes, that's a laundry bag to my left. I'm so convenient, yay! And that is really what you do. What that discusses, oh yeah, too dark. What it discusses basically is that the convention floor is just a bunch of squares and knots on what you have and what you need to do. So it's really important to just go, okay, how much of a room floor can I fill? And how can I plan that out? Once you have the floor plan and your imagination filled out, everything is marked with blue tape. You don't believe me? See that tape right there? That was entirely planned out and part of the idea that they wanted to push forward. This is where your imagination starts to make reality. As soon as the blue tape is placed, as soon as all the tape is placed, you now know where every single item you need to place is. This doesn't mean that every single item needs to be in a specific spot, but this is the area for the arcade. This is the area for the retrocade. This is the area for people to walk when they're going to the show. And yes, it can seem rather redundant at times when you see people going through and trying to make room of it all. But all of this is where the planning and the imagination and the floor plan meet. You have a giant empty room, then you fill it with tape, and you can know where it goes and what it's doing. See those people? They're just waiting in line because we told them. And this is pretty much where you're at. As the show continues on, you have more and more tape marking where things are, how things are, and how to set things up. And you can do this without having to worry because you've already made the floor plan, you've already made all the preparations for that floor plan, and you've basically filled this room with your imagination. So once you see that tape, you know you are accomplished, so long as you get everything there for the tape. The tape is not the beginning, it is the midpoint. It is the conclusion that you are ready. And at that point, it's time to start talking about how to set the show floor up. Well, that concludes today's video, and I thank you all for showing up. Once again, thanks to Ian for that intro. He also gave me a little picture that I can do with an outro, which you're going to see right after this. And honestly, you've seen the point when the convention actually begins is when you see those lines on the floor. When you enter into this empty room and you know where everything is because there's markings on the ground, you know you're there. And hopefully you've made all the preparations for it. You've filled out how you're going to fill this room. You've grabbed all the stuff. Everything is coming out of storage and coming out at the setup. And it's time to set everything up and to place everything. That's going to be our next video. So catch you all later. Bye now.